Hello to all my love and light beings. Welcome back to my station. For those of you who are new, my name is Sean Ivan D, aka my Alaskan Queen. If you'd like to join the Secret Sacred Shadow Spirit Society, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe below. In today's video, I wanted to go for some dramatic punk rock goth look with silver, black, cut crease, huge wing. It was a lot of fun. If you'd like to see how I created this look today, keep on watching. For those of you who don't like it, go ahead and keep on watching also, but please keep your negativity to yourself. I'd greatly appreciate it.
Are you ready for it?
Okay guys, so today I got something special. I've had this book that not really a book, but it's an anthology of a bunch of my work that I've been trying to put together, and I've really been wanting to share it. I have about 30 different poems in here, but I've been hesitant because I don't want them to get pirated or stolen and have somebody else profit off of them. But I'm going to go ahead and share the beginning because it's all about me, my personal journey. And the title of it is A Journey to Understanding One Soul's Path Between Two Worlds. And it's an anthology of works by Dual Spirit, Eagle Eyes, and Finding Feathers. And I finished it in about last year, 2017. And I begin by saying culture. It's not who you are or where you are from, but that which you take with you that cannot be taken away. And it's in dedication in loving memory of our brother and friend Justin Cecil D. Just in time. His Yupik name was Nunak Goth Nunak. He was born September 3rd, 1987, and he passed away on May 30th, 2010. Forever in our hearts, always. In honor and thanks to my family and friends, my mom, Dolores A., and her mom, Roseanne Westall, wife of Theodore Westall, and her mother, Maggie Sipri, her husband, my great-grandfather, Ivan Sipri, who I am named after, my father, Stephen D., his father, Cecil D., husband to Ruby, and my brother, Avery, his wife, Katie, and my nieces, Taya May, Ruby, and Kaya, my brother, Jeremy, and his wife, Megan, and my niece and nephew Ayana and Mateo, our sister Maggie Ann Martha, and my dear friend Leonard Lampy and Itsy Bitsy. Acknowledgements. I would first like to acknowledge and give thanks to Spirit and the ancestral guidance of those who have gone before us, as revealed to me my gifts of wisdom and discernment of their spiritual messages. As guided to believe and self-proclaimed as dual spirit, shall leave behind many tracks. Raven's light in eagle eyes sees truth, knowledge, and intellect, the light, while finding feathers of eagle wings is the message that is carried and delivered thus of spirit. Thanks to my supportive friends and family, thanks to our Yupik cultural ways of life, may we continue to be felt in the hearts with the beating of our traditional drums of song and dance, and to also bring the same spirit in the form of writing. It is my only wish that this contemporary cultural artist can bring smiles and hope to those whom have lost sight of it, and a reminder to all to never give up on your dreams. This is the story and works of a young man on his personal journey and discovery of culture and social identity, in what he describes as being born into two worlds, which serves him both as a curse and a blessing in disguise. Struggling to become aware and understanding of his own thoughts and processes, he describes an over-analytical and self-proclaimed perfectionism, haunted by indecisiveness, are actually a combination of two very separate and distinct consciousnesses. Dual Spirit sought enlightenment in the ability to rationalize conflicting interests within, as not only revealed to himself but to the world as well, the interactions of his mind. Sean Ivan D. is Dual Spirit, Yupik artist and poet from the Andrzejewski tribe. On my father's side of the family, I am French-Canadian, and my grandfather grew up in Nova Scotia, Halifax, Canada, where my dad was born. When my dad was 5 years old, the family began a journey across the United States. Cecil, my grandfather, and Ruby, my grandmother, and their son, my dad, Stephen. They drove an RV or fifth wheel hauled by a diesel truck, of which the smell brings back fond memories of being a kid and going for a ride with him and my grandmother we called Nanny. She didn't mind. Ruby was set in her ways and never did wrong by no means, went to church every week, never smoked or drank a day in her life, and observed the Sabbath, doing nothing of major effort or exertion on Sunday, and mostly knitted. After driving through the East Coast down to Florida, they decided to go all the way across to the next coast in the West, landing in California on their way to Washington State, where they settled until 1964. When my grandfather heard of the huge 1964 earthquake here in Anchorage, Alaska, he came up here to help with the restoration, bringing his wife and kid with him. They lived in what is now the almost very end of the old Seward Highway, right before Rabbit Creek Bridge. My dad fished there in the summer, and as a kid bring home fish that they would cook and eat for dinner. My dad went to high school in Anchorage, where he met my mother, Dolores, as a young teenagers, whom would often hang out together with other family and friends. They later married, and I was born 8 months after they tied the knot. Not traditional in the sense, but in my family it is our tradition and oral history I have heard, remember. In a more traditional sense, my great-grandparents on my mother's side are Maggie, we called Honey, and Ivan, of Inupiat descent. They helped the missionaries and adopted the Catholic religion and taught the children the new ways. They had 14 children, one of which is my grandmother Roseanne, who later married Ted. Grandma Rose once lived in Coolarak, Alaska, an old missionary-based school that was ironically later moved to what is my hometown, St. Mary's. My grandmother was a nurse and also a teacher for many years in Hooper Bay, Alaska. Grandma and Grandpa Ted Rose owned land in St. Mary's but decided to live in Anchorage as they may have believed that their 4 children would gain a better education. My mother met my dad in high school and later moved to St. Mary's, where I, the eldest of 4, all boys, were raised. And then my younger sister was adopted. We grew up with the privilege of having our native tongue, Yupik Eskimo, taught to us starting in the early elementary years and throughout our high school study which involved traditional arts and craft skills. My name is Sean Ivan D. I was born in Anchorage and raised in the lower Yukon Delta in southwest Alaska, where I grew up most of my life in a small town of about 600 plus people, mainly Yupik Eskimos, inhabiting a village known as St. Mary's of the Andrewski River, 1 mile north of the Great Alaska-Yukon Drainage. One of the problems I have experienced growing up is the closed-mindedness that seems to follow all rural communities, and the major influences peer pressure has on youthful individuals in such closed quarters. Not much else to do except follow the paths of others whose lives we unfortunately look up to are ironically only going to lead us down a one-way road to the path of self-destruction and devastations of the struggles, trials, and tribulations we will all go through along the way of life because of pent-up emotions, grudges, anxiety, depression, stress, and frustrations that we go through and how we choose to deal with them. I knew of no other way of coping with life or dealing with what life has thrown at me without exposing myself to unsurpassable loop of self-medication involving drugs and alcohol simply because I could not fathom another choice, and the mentors I needed in my life at the time were still in the dark to me. Sometimes I tell myself that maybe I wasn't quite ready to deal with my issues yet. I believe we all may, or at least know of someone in our lifetime that has gone through some sort of traumatic experience that has changed their lives. But having shared that information, how many of us really take them to heart and learn from others' understandings? I know I didn't and had to figure out for myself the hard way, which ultimately resulted in the use, misuse, and abuse of drugs and alcohol, including the aftermath of convictions, courts, lawyers, jail cells, correction and treatment facilities, the extremely high cost of fees, not to mention the pain and suffering caused through the loss of friends and the loss of trust of loved ones. Why is it that so many of us human beings tend to be so critical and analytical of ourselves and others, causing self-drudgery and pain and suffering in many different forms? For example, psychological anguish, emotional damage, physical ailments and illnesses, both to ourselves and others through judgment and insinuations, likes, dislikes, beliefs, and disbeliefs. I tend to find myself in a constant battle of conflict of interest within my own mind, molding what I have self proclaimed as my artistically overbearing, perfectionist personality. Bluntly, I am very stubborn and hard headed, just like a lot of the poor individual lost souls out there just trying to live life, looking for answers to the questions like, what is the meaning of life? Or what does it mean to be human? And what is my purpose? It took what seemed like an eternity for me to get over the exhausting climb of life's treacherous terrain before I could begin to see above the fog and realize that all I needed in life I already had or was right there for the taking. Then I could sit back and relax and enjoy the beautiful view of what life had to offer. I obtained a greater appreciation and thankfulness for everything life has to offer by being humble and showing gratuity and respect for other human beings, and more importantly myself. Worries seem to become smaller, and the happier things in life are aplenty. But before my new point of view, I found myself sitting at the edge of the doctor's examining table in a cold, small room. My heart thundered like a freight train within the cave of my chest, echoing as it would through a dark, narrow tunnel. My body felt as though I could feel the weight of the full load bearing down upon my shoulders. I was hauling a heavy load, roaring full speed ahead. The pressure in my head was beginning to reach its limits, as if the steam engine was ready to explode. Clouds of smoke and gas pouring out the seams and cracks of the nuts and bolts holding the engine together was like my mind, my brain's static electricity, synaptic misfires and overloads, my own mini meltdown or malfunction of my mind running out of control. I was scared now even more than I had ever been before, struggling for each breath, and with each new inhalation as empty as the next, I just could not get enough air. It was like a force was against me and squeezing the life right out of my soul. The stabbing pain in my chest was throbbing, growing in strength along with the ringing in my ears. I had a flashback of the last moment I had this exact feeling. Awkwardly enough, it was in a cold jail cell, January 26, 2006, at 3:30 in the morning. I came to consciousness under extreme anxiety and distress, understanding I had got myself arrested for DUI and a hit and run. Please let me know in the comments down below if this is something you'd like me to continue in some of my future videos. So I'm going to go shoot my intro. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below. Love ya. Bye, baby. So tired. I've been sitting here for hours. Okay. Love those lips. All right.